Hi, welcome to the shed. Today I want to show you how to use a typing keyboard to play in drum parts, bass lines, chords, and melodies on Soundtrap. Let's say you don't have a MIDI keyboard. That is my primary mode of musical transportation in Soundtrap. And let's say you only have a typing keyboard. Can you do it? Yes, you can. Let me show you how. All right, so I'm in Soundtrap here. I'm going to add a new track. We're going to talk about drums first. One of the cool things with Soundtrap is if you go to instrument right here, it will show you what keys are used to play each instrument. So it says A for the kick, it says D for the snare, and U for closed hi-hat. So what I would do is I would put my right hand index finger on U, I would put my left hand middle finger on A, and I would put my left hand index finger on D, and you can play some drum grooves like that. So let's apply it. We're going to write a little groove here. I'm going to change my tempo. And to change the tempo, I'm just using the letter T on the typing keyboard here. So about 78. I'm going to make sure 1 bar. I'm going to have my drum groove on. So let's record. 2, 3, 4. Okay, and now let's quantize it. Cool. Now that's how to do drum parts. I would just stick to those 3, and I'd use those fingers. Those are the fingers that you would use if you were using a MIDI keyboard. And then if you ever get the chance to use a MIDI keyboard, the better thing about a MIDI keyboard is you can change velocity. So you can play louds and softs when you are programming in your stuff. So when I add a new track, let's talk about bass lines. I'm going to add in a guitar and bass here. Let's change this sound to synth bass. I'm going to use this clean sub bass. So we have to talk about the range of bass and how it's going to interact with your keyboard. So we have down here, it tells you, which keys are used for which notes. So we have C1, which is there, and that's Z on the keyboard. And then we have X, C, V. It's the whole bottom row of the keyboard you can use to play all of the white keys. Once you get to here, you have to go up to Q. And you can get pretty high. Now for a bass instrument, I kind of like lower sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the octave. So click that down. And now the lowest note you have. You could barely hear that. That's super low. Now the lowest note you have when you press Z, it's this C0, especially with this sub, it's really low. So I'm going to do, I'm going to play A. All right, I'm going to do A, F, C, G. And, to play that, I'm just going to find the notes. So N, B, C, and when I said C, I mean comma, and B. And now we're going to record that with our drum groove. So I'm going to press record here. Just move my fingers along, using the tips of the fingers, kind of like how you would for a piano keyboard. The technique, use the tips of the fingers here. Just make sure they're not like crawling. You don't want to do like the one finger sort of hunt and peck kind of technique here, because if you have all your fingers on the correct rows, you can get actually pretty decent at musical typing. All right, so I have a drum part, I have a bass line. Need to quantize that bass line, so let's quantize to the 16th. I'm going to add in chords here. I'm just picking a chord. Instruments. Pink Carol, that's new. Again, it's important to look at the range. So let's peek at the range down here. We have C3, which is the lowest note, going all the way to C5. So you can just test. It's a little high for me. I want it dark. So I'm going to do it there. I'm going to start using... Yeah. That's how I'm going to play. Ooh. All right, so now let's go to record that. Awesome. And let's quantize that. Only need to quantize to the 8th note. And now I need to talk about melody. Depending on the key you're in, it's going to also affect your chords. Depending on the key you're in, you might have to play some sharps and flats. Let me show you how to play sharps and flats really quick. Let's bring up a melody instrument. I'm just gonna pick another keyboard. Let's find something. Maybe I like these organs. I like the really cheesy organs. Phil Cordia. Yeah, super cheesy. All right, so if you look at the notes here, you will see that we have sharps and flats above. So if you're in a different key, like I'm in the key of C, I don't have to really worry about the sharps and flats. But if you were gonna pick some notes that aren't in the key, you would use these. So I'm gonna go an octave down here. So here is just, but if I wanted to put in like, I had to use this note here, this 8, and it shows you exactly in Soundtrap. All right, 8 is D sharp, E flat. So I'm gonna have my melody have one of those non-diatonic notes in there. And the more you do this, the more comfortable you get with it until it becomes your instrument. Here we go. Let's see what happens. All with typing keyboard. What I think helps is because you know that you're not going to be able to change velocity. If you pick instruments that don't have velocity in them, like the organ, you can't change the velocity when you play an organ. So it's the same thing when you play a typing keyboard. Electronic drums, you can't really change the velocity of some of those things. And sometimes it doesn't sound good if you change the velocity, but you can get a lot out of just using your typing keyboard.